22 часа 28 минут. Масса...
We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon.
One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. Dragon deploy verified.
Welcome to Spacevidcast 507 for Saturday, May 12th, 2012. My name is Benjamin Higginbotham. With me, as always, is the beautiful, lovely, wonderful, and talented Carrie Ann Higginbotham. Will be your hosts for this awesome show. For those of you watching on YouTube On Demand, we're going to start off with some space news, and after the first break, we're going to jump to our main topic, which is the Liberty rocket announced by ATK. Was more of the crew, the additional announcements to the Liberty rocket. And then in the last half of the show, after the second break, we're going to talk, last third of the show, I suppose, we're going to talk about...
The other half.
The third half of the show.
And the other half.
Well, the show's long enough where you can split it into three halves. I'm pretty sure that works.
Probably, yeah.
Somehow magically.
Okay.
We're going to talk viewer comments from previous shows. But let's go ahead and get started with space news. Back in the day, we used to get yelled at for talking way too much about Space Shuttle, right? So there'd be a Space Shuttle mission, and all we talk about is Space Shuttle.
Pretty much.
So you're going to yell at me today, because all we're going to talk about is SpaceX, for the most part. Let's start off with the successful static firing. In fact, we even have video here. Check it out.
-10. All stations avionics global, part of your terminal count abort.
Now,
It's like Vax said, don't blink.
kind of. So the neat thing about the Falcon 9 rocket is that it can do these static fires.
Right.
And there was so much confusion in the comments on SpaceX's channel for the video that I figured I would clarify. It is designed to only run... The counter runs up to 3 seconds.
Yeah.
That's by design. It's just kind of a last-minute checkout of the entire system.
Right.
It was not supposed to launch. A static fire is not a fire on the pad made by... I don't know what they would assume.
I think the confusion, though, came in with static fire, and it wasn't explicit that it was a 3-second static fire. So I think some people... me included.
That was going to be a full duration test?
Yes.
No, they don't do full duration tests on the pad.
But somehow, all of this, just launch the damn thing, okay? And I think that's really where it kind of all came from.
I guess we'll keep the PG rating on this show.
Anyhow.
So it was a very successful static fire. At least it looked to be a successful static fire. It looks like the Falcon 9 rocket is ready to go to the International Space Station on May 19th.
Yeah, they sent out the press kit.
They sent out the press kit, so you
I'm
know they're ready to
now.
go. Oh man, I'm missing that video for some reason. Actually, I have an animation. Here we go. We'll just drop it in the show like this.
Okay.
We do have a mission animation of what this is all going to kind of look like. So here, check this out. I'm going to bring down the audio. We'll kind of talk over it.
Okay.
So this is the Falcon 9 at Kennedy Space Center. I'm sorry, at the Cape.
At the Cape.
Air Force Station at Slick 40, Space Launch Complex 40. And it will launch from the pad on hopefully May 19th at wee early hours
Yeah,
in
it's
the
not
morning.
going to look like this. It'll be dark.
It'll be very, very dark. Then you're going to see first stage separate.
Just like this from this camera angle.
From
You do-
from
you
the
do
magic camera
cameras
angle.
up there, right?
Yeah,
That'll do this.
no,
That's your
no.
job? Oh,
Yep, so
okay.
then now you've got the second stage burning, and it's taking Dragon kind of to a, I was going to call it a parking orbit, but that's not quite right.
That's a terrible way
Yeah,
to do
as
that.
Vax said, it's 4:55 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. That's 1:55 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time. Wow.
Yep.
All right, so one thing they missed in this animation is that the Dragon will not then immediately approach the space station. There will be a series of maneuvers that NASA has asked Dragon to do to prove that it's a controllable vehicle in space.
Right.
So it's going to kind of fly around the space station in a weird, kind of flat, donut-y kind of shape almost. One other interesting thing is Dragon will not be docking with the space station. It will
As you
actually
can see here, it'll be birthed.
It'll be birthing with the space station. Those are two different things. So docking is where you're basically going to the space station under your own power and attaching to the space station by yourself.
Right, you drive into your parking spot.
You drive into your parking spot. Birthing is what you see here, which is where they take an arm, they grapple onto you, and they pull you in.
Is that a Canada arm by any
That
chance?
is a Canada arm.
Thank you, Canada.
As a matter of fact, absolutely. So they'll be docked to the. I'm sorry, they'll be birthed. I just told you not to say dock, and then I go ahead and say dock. They'll be birthed at the space station for a long time.
Right.
And all these animations are in super fast mode, by the way. The initial birthing stuff, that's like 8 hours long.
Right.
So that's not like you just kind of pull it up and off you go. That was hyper fast motion. So Dragon stays attached to the space station for, we'll call it a couple weeks, however long it ends up being. They'll debirth, debirthicize.
Separate. They're
Sep-
gonna separate.
They'll separate, there you go. And one of the unique characteristics of Dragon, as opposed to most of the other vehicles capable going to the space station, is that it can down mass, or it can take a great deal of weight back down with it. That's the capability that we lost with Shuttle. And so here you can see the parachutes. Oh, I have to go back to us. It's going to black.
Oh no! Where did we go?
You see the parachutes deploy,
Yes.
and it returns with whatever cargo we want to put on board.
Splashdown.
Splashdown.
Because I said landed the other day. And
That is
wasn't
a
right.
cargo-only vehicle.
Yes.
The Dragon at this time is not human-rated.
Right.
So there are no human missions to the space station at this time. Now, if you go to SpaceX, at their recent Spacecraft Technology Expo,
Yes.
at Space Tech Expo, I think on Twitter,
Yep.
they did show the prototype Dragon Rider.
Yes.
Which is the Dragon that would have 7 astronauts on board, just like Space Shuttle. And it's the one with the thrusters that allows you to land back on land. So that was, they're starting to show that off. So SpaceX is serious about that stuff.
cool looking.
But right now, it's cargo only.
Yes.
So that's the mission coming up to the International Space Station. The first time a private company, what did I say?
You didn't.
Oh, what did they say?
That says 7 astronauts, 4 noses.
When you see, you just have to see it, I
Yeah.
guess.
The thrusters on the side do kind of make a nose-ish, nostril-y kind of
So
shape
while
going on.
SpaceX is working on doing this first mission to the International Space Station, they've also made some announcements with Bigelow Aerospace.
Ooh.
You want to talk about that just for a second?
Sure. Well, Bigelow Aerospace, in case you aren't aware of who they are, I guess. See, I now that I'm speaking about it, I know I always get this a little bit wrong. It's Robert Bigelow, is that correct?
Yeah.
And he has got some sort of, not capsules, they're inflatable
Space stations.
space stations that
Mm-hmm.
are floating around up there. And for scientific and for tourism purposes.
I think
suppose.
it's more science. I think he's kind of poo-pooed the whole tourism idea.
He a little bit, except that now that SpaceX now that they've come into this agreement, and SpaceX can hold so many people, that you can do a little bit of both. Kind of
Maybe.
like what the Russians are doing right now. Or what the Russians have done. I
Actually, the
apologize.
Bigelow stuff is really cool because you can make a space station with the same usable volume as the current ISS for a fraction of the cost. In theory, of course, all theory.
Right.
A fraction of the cost, and just like with a couple modules, kind of like Skylab, right? The usable, my understanding is the usable volume of Skylab versus the usable volume of ISS.
Right, and I'm being yelled at in the chat room. Not inflatable, expandable.
Okay, yeah, fine.
So there's
Sure.
that.
There's that. All right, fine.
Sorry. Expandable space.
They've announced an agreement to work together.
Yes.
To try to actually make this stuff go. This is one of the things that's always been holding Bigelow back, is he's got test modules up there.
Right.
But there's no effective, inexpensive way to get there.
Right.
So he's got this great technology stuck on Earth.
But at the same time, there are only test modules up there. It's not like there's this done thing, kind of like the International Space Station, that's just up there floating, waiting for people to inhabit. Mm-hmm. Right?
Correct.
So that's the next hurdle, wouldn't you say?
Well, kind of.
For Bigelow
he needs
specifically?
launch providers. He
Right.
needs low-cost launch providers. And he needs to be able to also not only launch just cargo, he needs to be able to launch crew too. Right. So that's where this partnership, I think, makes a lot of sense.
Right. Okay. Good. I'm glad we're on the same page now. There we are.
So, kind of moving forward. This was an interesting article, and I enjoyed making this graphic.
Of course you did.
So, is Texas forfeiting the private space race? And the article is basically about the idea that SpaceX... Sorry, guys, I know. Lots of SpaceX in the show.
But, they are kind of a big player, but even in Texas. So,
yeah, no, they do have their test stand in Texas, but
yes.
SpaceX is doing an environmental impact study on a potential launch site in Texas. And maybe, I mean, that's all I know, was they're doing this study. They haven't said they're doing anything in Texas. They just,
SpaceX very explicitly has never said that they're going to do anything else in Texas other than what they're already doing.
Right.
So let's make that really clear.
Texas historically does not launch vehicles.
Right.
Right? That's Texas, the JSC part of NASA. That's after you've already launched.
Right.
They take control after the shuttles clear the tower, after you're in space, and then they run the rest of the mission. They are NASA mission control, basically.
Right.
They're not NASA launch place.
No.
So
that would be Florida. The thing is, though, that when you look at the where they are, their latitude, it's not that far different, really, from where Cape is.
Yeah, but you have to fly over humans.
Right. That's kind of the big thing, is that you have to fly over Disney World, basically. God forbid something should happen, and that's where something goes.
Trebles brings up a point.
Terrible.
JSC is before they launch too, and it's after. It's everything but the launch, right? The launch is controlled by Kennedy Space Center, or Florida, traditionally from a NASA perspective. And a good chunk of space in Texas is NASA. It's JSC.
But it would be interesting to have a spaceport there,
right? And now we've got NewSpace coming along saying, "Well, we're not going to do any of that." So it's a way to keep space in Texas. It was a really good article talking about how SpaceX is kind of looking to do this, but they may not be getting all the cooperation they need.
Right.
On the front from the government officials.
Right.
To make
it almost
it
sounds
happen.
like Texas is the one who's poo-pooing the idea, not necessarily SpaceX, which is interesting.
All right. So before we go to break, I do want to. I know I'm going to run a little long on this segment, but speaking of commercial spaceports,
yes.
So SpaceX trying to do one in Texas. Hawaii is also looking at some fun stuff, and you found this interesting story. So Hawaii becoming an aerospace hub. Check this out.
Controversial story now concerning our state dollars and a trip to outer space.
Yeah, Hawaii lawmakers are reaching for the stars, expected to pass 2 bills that would bring the state closer to space tourism and even developing on the moon.
Hawaii News Now's Tim Sakahara brings us the lofty ideas.
Imagine this runway out of here in Kailailoa as a spaceport capable of taking tourists into outer space. Well, some lawmakers say that possibility is closer than ever before. The sky is not the limit for space tourism, but money is. In the past, the idea had support, but the funds haven't been released.
It looks like this is going to be the year for the aerospace industry, and in particular, space tourism.
First, Hawaii needs a spaceport license from the FAA. 10 states already have one. The state needs to front $250,000 and hopes the federal government matches that amount. State Senator Willa Sparrow introduced the bill and says Hawaii can easily recoup the money from interested companies, especially since space tourism is projected to be a $1 billion industry in just 10 years.
Hawaii will be able to embark on a new era in travel, basically not going from country to country, but rather to go into that next frontier, space and lower Earth orbit.
New Mexico has already taken the lead. Richard Branson and his company Virgin Galactic just opened its spaceport there. 450 people from 46 countries have already paid as much as $200,000 to fly to space. And flights going 62 miles high could begin as early as next year.
Branson can have a space plane in New Mexico, and he could have a space plane here locally.
As if that weren't lofty enough, another bill expected to pass would build an international lunar research park on the Big Island. The facility would help create robots designed to develop a colony on the moon and have the first human settlement on the moon within 10 years. To get that going, the state would invest $500,000 from the budget and float another $1.8 million in bonds to float the moon development. But before any of that happens, lawmakers have to approve both bills tomorrow, which is expected to happen. In Kailailoa, Tim Sakahara, Hawaii News Now.
That really would be something if that did happen.
That's right, but just make sure you get the round trip ticket for that one.
Right.
Yeah.
Stop! It is local news, and you know how that goes because they're very thorough in all the B-roll that they get. They're very accurate in all of the what.
You guys, did you guys in the chat room notice that? Because I was watching that.
What?
It might be worth rewinding and just looking for that. Did anyone else notice that they took their B-roll not from Virgin Galactic, but from Spacevidcast? Oh yes, that's right. We're big in Hawaii. On that note, we're going to go to break. When we come back, our main topic, which is the Liberty rocket announcements that ATK made this last week. We'll be right back.
My fondest dream is becoming an astronaut. I will see space and planets. I will hear the countdown clock. I will taste astronaut food on a mission. I will touch the controls. I will smell space. Inside, I will feel happy and excited. I wrote this poem.
All right, so I thought that was a good commercial to roll into this segment, right? Having the Liberty rocket into the Liberty announcements.
Liberty ad? Liberty rockets?
A little bit. So there was a 1-hour announcement at the Spacecraft Technology Expo.
Yes.
And ATK talked about some of the updates to Liberty. And I've cut some of this stuff down to key points. So,
right. Because otherwise it would be a really long show.
Right. So here's a quick introduction to what Liberty is.
What is Liberty? If we take a look at the launch vehicle, the first stage from ATK is a 5-segment version of what the 4-segment little brother was that has flown on Space Shuttle hundreds of times. The second stage comes from the Ariane 5 from the core, and then, but as we just announced, hey, we have a space vehicle now. So from the service module, the composite crew module, and the abort system. That's kind of the exciting news now that we have a total service.
So the key thing that they were announcing isn't just that they've got the 5-segment solid rocket booster. This was designed and developed for the Ares 1 rocket from the Constellation program. So unlike the Space Shuttle, which used a 4-segment solid rocket booster, this was basically a clean sheet design, meaning, and I know that a lot of people kind of said, oh, well, no, it's using proven technologies from Shuttle, but it's a new material on the outside, it's a new grain on the inside for the actual solids. Right. It's a 5th segment, which means it interacts with everything differently. It's basically a new rocket. But the nice thing is, because of Constellation, we've already tested it. We've gone through a good chunk of the testing. But a lot of people, because it is a solid motor as opposed to a liquid motor, have said, well, that's unsafe, right? Look at Challenger. They actually touched on that. So let's roll what they said about that.
Our solid rocket booster, the joint was not as robust as it needed to be. So particularly if you flew it in cold weather, the joint leaked. The joint severed the strut that attached it to the rest of the stack, and it immediately turned into a fireball, and a very bad day for all of us Americans, especially that crew. You know, in fact, that joint, if that motor had been on Liberty, that leak we probably wouldn't have even known about until we recovered the first stage. And that's kind of back to the point of my interactions. You want a system that's simple. So the joint in itself leaking started the problem, but had it not been pointed at a strut that it cut like a blowtorch, we would have gotten by that day.
So that's actually a very valid comment, I think, right? So in the solid rocket booster, one of the O-rings, there was fire that blew through the O-ring.
Right.
That wasn't what caused the destruction of Challenger.
Right.
What happened was that then cut into a strut that was held by that giant external tank.
Right.
And that is what that huge boom that you saw, that's what that was. In fact, it's thought, I believe, based on the book Riding Rockets, they had blowouts before on the solid rocket boosters. The difference is they weren't pointed at a critical joint. So when you blow out, away from the vehicle, so what?
Sort of wrong place, wrong time kind of situation.
Exactly. And the point being made here is, from a solid standpoint, there's nothing. It's everything sits on top of it now. It's not side mounted anymore.
Right.
So if you do have a blowout, so what?
Right.
It doesn't matter. And because it's not a side mounted design anymore, which is inherently less safe than a top mounted design.
Right.
For multiple reasons. Columbia is another really good example of why side mounted does not make sense. Because it's top mounted, like basically every design moving forward now, you just have more safety there, right? If you start to lose the bottom segments, you can pull away. And now, the last thing that the space geeks really complain about when it comes to Ares 1 was thrust oscillation. That is it would oscillate. It would vibrate the bejeebers out of you. So they talked about that as well.
What you see here is the stage, what will be the Liberty upper stage, and it is powered by the Vulcan 2 engine, which is provided by Safran Snecma. Again, that engine, as part of the Ariane 5 first stage, has launched 87 consecutive successful times. The chart here, this is ATK data, and what it shows, this is another one of the issues you've heard about in the past, I'm sure, thrust oscillation. Well, what happens with when you take our first stage and put it on as the second stage, compared to Ares 1, the tanks are actually flipped. You have the liquid oxygen tank on top, liquid hydrogen on the bottom, and when you then look at the complete stack, and this is ATK data, the blue is, as it shows, when you really take a conservative approach and look at all the issues set with thrust oscillation and how that could harmonize with that stack, and then compared, the lime green in the middle is Liberty, and you can see it basically becomes a very, very almost de minimis issue with the Liberty stack with our upper stage.
So that's basically taken care of for the most part. And as was brought up in the chat room, you can have thrust oscillation on any vehicle, right?
Right.
It's bad to have on any vehicle. You just don't want to have it. You don't want to shake everything apart, basically, especially humans, right? There's a point where we just don't want to be shaked anymore, right? So those were some of the comments on the Liberty rocket. There is a lot of non-love for ATK. We'll put it that way. Even reading the chat room right now, just talking about this, there is a lot of non-love. So I would like to do my best to see if we can't wipe the slate clean. It's fair to note, ATK does not sponsor Spacevidcast.
No.
We're getting nothing from this. I just think that more commercial launch providers is better for the entire industry as a whole. And
Which we've been saying from the start.
Right now, ATK is paying for this out of their own pocket. So absolutely, a lot of this was designed under the Constellation program, but to get it to the stage that it's at right now, that was all out of ATK's wallet. Completely. They did not win COTS contracts or CC Dev or anything like that.
Right.
In fact, they lost them, but they continued moving forward building the rocket. How many other space companies would be willing to do that? A small handful, certainly, but not all of them. So it just goes to show that they are serious about this. Now,
well, and they cut like half of their workforce. They made their entire workflow so much more streamlined.
And here's the key point. I think Hantner hit it on the head. And this is where a lot of space geeks take extreme issue.
Yeah.
I don't appreciate the ATK specialists, or as they were known, experts in Utah, who advised, I added that in for you, Hannah, who advised the creation of the last few congressional rocket systems using solid boosters, of course. That's the issue. When rocket scientists are no longer allowed to build the best vehicle and are forced by law to use a specific technology, people get upset.
Right.
Let the rocket scientists be rocket scientists and build the best and safest vehicle they can, and don't force a specific technology to save jobs down their throat, because that could cost lives.
Right. And I guess that's my point, right? I mean, again, they slashed half of their workforce. They streamlined, they made things so much more safe in their entire organization and streamlined the entire process. Like, I really feel as though they're making huge strides to become way more agile. Not quite as agile as SpaceX is, right? I mean, they're still the underdog. They're still the kind of up and comer to a certain extent. They're definitely not nearly as big as Boeing, but I think ATK, where a lot of times we used to look at them as, you know, ATK and Boeing and that kind of thing, I think they're almost they're just becoming more agile, and they're filling a more middle ground area that I think hasn't been filled or isn't being filled at the moment.
Yes, I think so. Now, there's one of two ways this can go in the future. One,
it could, yeah.
One, ATK could have learned their lesson. It is possible. They can turn over a new leaf. It is completely I have met a lot of the people who are behind this rocket, and I can tell you they are very passionate. To them, it's not about politics. It's about building the best rocket they can build. It truly is. And they are the people who work at ATK, the ones who put a lot of this on. They are the ones who absolutely convinced me that they are serious about this, and that they really... they're not trying to be jerks. I mean, they're not trying to you know, I don't know how else to put it, right? I mean, they're just as passionate as anyone who works at SpaceX or Boeing or NASA. It's not just a jobs program.
We were really impressed with them.
We were really impressed with them. But it is also possible that a down select will occur and ATK will just be chosen because they have their hands in politics so much that they will force it back onto the country again, which, just like Constellation and just like SLS, will create a very vile, nasty taste in the mouth of the space community.
Yes.
And I think in the long term, that would be very bad. The whole concept of down selecting rapidly is a bad one, in my opinion. Let the market sort itself out on its own. But
agreed.
There you go. Those are the two ways this could go.
Right.
But I wouldn't hate on Liberty just because you've hated on them in the past.
Right. Yes, exactly.
I'm not saying that on air.
No, I'm not either. But that was funny. Yeah, I think there's room for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And I much like a friend who once called you fat when they didn't mean to. I think you just sort of need to get over it and move on and let them fail again, right? Like,
well, they didn't fail.
No, but I mean, you know what I'm
in fact,
saying? Like,
they haven't failed. That's kind of the point. That's why I like Liberty is they're solid technology. If you were to eliminate some of them, I mean, if you look at how all of this goes together, the solid technology is quite safe,
right?
And has been safe for the last 30 years. So it could potentially be a very good, inexpensive, very rapid return to space that can send humans out there, and maybe we can do some really cool things with the vehicle.
Yes,
that's my point. So I think a lot of the new spacers are giving them a hard time.
Yes,
and maybe just open your mind a little bit is my point.
Right. See, we're not fan kids. We'll love and hate on the same people at the same time.
Oh, absolutely. Oh no, I mean,
all people
there's
at the
total
same
possibility
time.
that they're going to go through, do the whole political thing again, and I'll be hating back on it once more.
Totes.
I don't care if it's solid fuel, liquid fuel, a brand new whatever. You cannot force the technology on the rocket scientists.
Right.
Let them decide. Let the guys who run the numbers and build the vehicles and put their name on it, let them choose the best technology. Senators have no idea what's actually best. Experts in Utah are trying to save their job. Let the rocket scientists do it. That's what I take issue with. And if it was liquid fuel, I'd have just as much issue with that. In fact, I have issue with them forcing the old shuttle technology, on the newer vehicles as well. That's a terrible design. Let the rocket scientists choose the best path forward.
Right.
All right.
All right.
So there we go.
All right. Are we good?
Yeah, I think so. There were a few comments
Okay.
on the what am I trying to say? The actual video.
Yes. Is that the right one?
No, there's no way that's right.
Okay. Good. I'm glad.
We're
we
just
fixed
going to jump to
part
that
out.
one, yeah.
Right. Next.
I'm still reading for SpaceX, even though a 3.5 million pound thrust solid rocket is awesome. Elon and company have their sights set on Mars, so you want them to succeed. And that's kind of one of the nifty things about SpaceX is it's not just a rocket company. They have a destination in mind, right? We are going to Mars, is what they say.
Yeah.
And so that's very inspiring, and that's why I think a lot of people, for the
there's a goal.
ATKs, the ULAs, the
Right.
Boeings, the Lockheeds of the world, who are trying to figure out why SpaceX is getting all this attention, they're getting the attention simply because they've said, we're going to Mars. Get out of our way. Right? That's pretty cool.
It is pretty cool.
Here we go. Liberty, awesome. This was on the Spacevidcast comment section. USA will rule the space industry again. I'm tired of seeing Russians getting paid millions to put American astronauts into space. I have no idea why American was in quotes.
Well, because not all American astronauts are from America.
Oh, I suppose.
We have astronauts,
That makes sense.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, but at the same time, worldwide bonding, space brings us as humans together.
Oh,
We
yeah.
don't have to compete. Star
We're
Trek
all
universe.
together in space.
Yes.
Wow, hippie.
And just showing that there is a lot of hate for...
There's some hate still.
well, there is. This is kind of where my comments come from. Behold, son of the corn dog, Ares 1, and just as stupid. And hopefully we've convinced you that maybe...
But with a way cooler paint job, man.
Oh, the paint job is... This is a terrible, terrible way to judge a rocket, but the paint is awesome.
But it is awesome.
Just give it a chance. That's all I'm saying, is...
All we are saying.
It's hard to do, but just give it a shot. All right. More comments. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, comments from last show.
Right.
I almost said last week's again. Last show.
Last show.
From you guys. So stay with us. We'll be right back.
Look into her face, determination in her eyes. She won't give up or quit or fall for little fashion lies. Filled with awesome expectation, this girl's a fascination. And nothing in her way will keep her from her destination. 'Cause she's fire walking, she's fire walking. When it's hot, she keeps on moving. Through the heat, keeps on improving. Yeah, she's fire walking, she's fire walking to be free.
So, two things. One, yes, I did misspell Arion. I didn't catch it until it was too late.
Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. So there's an E at the end. But I was hoping no one would notice, but they noticed right away in the chat room.
Of course.
But the second thing is...
Which is funny because they didn't notice the bug. So what's up,
Yeah,
people?
well, come on, chat room.
Come on
Jeez.
now.
The second thing is, that I think is the first time we've ever had a calendar that had to be 2 pages long.
Yeah, Ben goes, I don't know how to do this.
Right, we never designed it to do that. The calendar only shows you 1 week's
Fail
worth of
on
launch.
you.
Yeah, it's 1 week's worth of launch, so 7
Right.
full days worth of launch, and sometimes we'll have a calendar of no launches. That has happened
Great
before,
song.
but I've never had. Yeah, and I'll do that for the whole song. I'm like, nah, we decided not to do anything this week. But two pages of launches. That's what that was. So go back, check that out. That is 6 launches in the next 7 days. I think it's May 17th is a very popular launch day, apparently.
I think 15th and 17th.
15th and 17th, absolutely.
Good
yeah,
times.
so that was fun. All right, so let's do some comments from you, the viewers. And by the way, the easiest way to get on the show, if you want to hear your name on the show, you want to be part of this thing we're doing right here, easiest way to do that is leave a video comment. Just get on, give us 60 seconds of what you thought for this show, what you thought about Liberty, why you think it's good or bad, why you will or won't give it a chance, what you think is going to happen. Just quick little, this is what you think.
And how I made some really good points.
And how Carrie Ann made some really good points.
myself.
That we love your comments. We love them so much. Here's some from last show. We've got 2012 is a big year. First planetary resources, then in August Curiosity is supposed to land. What else? Well, of course, we've got SpaceX doing their thing, right? So SpaceX is launching the International Space Station.
That's going to happen this year?
That will hopefully happen this year. Oh, hush you.
That was supposed to happen last year.
Just a few more. We've got Virgin Galactic. There's a high possibility. I say this hesitantly. There's a high possibility that they're going to begin tests with their engine. Finally, maybe someday in the next 10 years. And they're oh, come on. They're doing it safe, and that's the right way to do it. But, you know, I'm impatient. We've got X-Core. They're potentially going to beat Virgin Galactic because they're just taking so long. So,
and Orbital.
Orbital's doing their stuff. Another great so there's a lot of really great stuff happening in 2012. There was a tweet from Neil deGrasse Tyson saying how if 2012 continues the way it's been going, we're going to look at it as a year of remembering 50th anniversaries only. And I could not disagree more. We are doing more innovation and more awesome stuff in 2012 than we have done in a very long time. And you don't just in 1 year go to the moon. You have to do baby steps. And you look at what SpaceX is doing, you should be inspired. You look at what Orbital's doing, you should be inspired. You look at what ATK is doing, paying for that rocket out of their own pocket, you should be inspired. You look at what X-Core and Maston and Armadillo and Virgin Galactic are doing, you should be inspired. All of this is happening this year. So, for shame, Dr. Tyson. For shame. All right. Yeah, that happened.
Just one little tweet.
We talked last week about Hermes.
Yes.
That was the kind of home-built Kickstarter kind of thing.
Yes.
I think the point made during the Hermes segment is perhaps the most important, that the necessity for average people to become informed and active in the development of this technology is essential, rather than leaving it to government and corporations. Here's the thing here.
What is the thing?
Here's the thing.
Please tell us.
I just don't see people, and I know the chat room's going to throw up Copenhagen suborbitals, but I don't see this space technology in the next decade or two being something that you can do in your garage. It's very complicated. It's very expensive. It's hard to do. It's hard to get to suborbital. This is why it costs so much.
Right.
Most people just simply can't afford it.
Okay.
So I'm not sure we're going to have kind of that maker getting people to the ISS community going on. Certainly balloons to suborbital, or not even suborbital, high altitude balloons maker community. Near space. Sure, maker stuff can do that. But as soon as you get past near space, I think you've gone past what the maker community can do. Although, challenge maker community, prove me wrong. Can you get past near space? Can you actually go suborbital and send something relevant? I don't want to see cheese or a little itty bitty card, right? I want to see something substantial moved into space, something worthwhile, right? I'll accept baby steps. It doesn't have to be a human, but, or as Carl Sagan would say, human, but right? He does. But something bigger and more awesome, something to get us inspired. I don't know. You can pick. Like what?
The dog.
Oh, yeah, a dog would be great. Although it would be bad if the dog didn't survive. I thought you said like a, and I was like, what? Like a what?
Thank you. Kim understands. Leica.
The big boys don't have a single stage-to-orbit rocket that is fully reusable and has turnaround time of 2 days. That's what will make it many times cheaper, but it's more of a plane than a rocket. This is in reference to Skylon, by the way, for the last week's show. Basically talking about how, I'm going to be such a Debbie Downer in this show again.
I know.
I know, because I want these things to be true. The cold, harsh reality is that it's not quite. Talking about how Google started in a garage. You know, there are these great software companies that grow from Apple started in a garage. Microsoft basically started with college dropout.
Right.
I mean, you just kind of, you imagine and think these ideas, and in software you can create them. And that's absolutely true. In the software world. We are not in the software world. We are in the space hardware world.
Yeah.
And when it comes to launching stuff to space, you don't just make a rocket in your garage. I guarantee you someone's going to prove me wrong, and it's going to be awesome. And I encourage you to shove it in my face.
There's a guy in New Zealand who changed his last name to Rocket. Who did make a rocket in his garage and got the attention of NASA.
A real rocket, one that can actually fly?
Yes.
Like into space?
Yes.
Did he fly it?
Yes.
Did it go to
That's
space?
That's how he got NASA's attention.
Did it go to space?
I think it did. I think it went suborbital. Somebody look up Mark Rocket from New Zealand. 50% of New Zealand's space industry.
I call shenanigans on that one. Either it didn't launch or it exploded.
I don't...
Because the fuel necessary would be very expensive.
All right.
So anyhow, that's my point, is it's very expensive, very costly, very difficult to get to space. Unfortunately, the physics just haven't changed, right? You have to escape our gravity well. That takes a lot of energy. And because of that, you can't just imagine new software to make it go. You can't look at that in a new way. It's truly, honestly, as Icarus Factor says, it is rocket science. So it is what it is. And I encourage, what we need is a revolution in propulsion. When we have that, everything changes. But until then, it reduce the mass of Earth.
Sorry,
Lunar
reading
Baby
the chat
says.
room, don't mind me.
Oh yeah, the amateur high-power rockets aren't too far from being orbital capable. Okay. I disagree.
Thank you to Wicked.
Orbital capable is a lot of energy, right? The difference between suborbital and orbital is very large.
Right.
So orbital capable rocket, keep in mind that's 17,500 miles per hour for a low Earth orbit rocket. Remember, orbit means you got to be able to go all the way around. That's an orbit, not just up and down. I don't see it. I just don't. I just don't see it. Maybe my imagination is not big enough. I don't know.
Says the man who wants to broadcast from the moon.
I will broadcast from the moon. So this is in regards to the planetary resources announcement, which is absolutely no one is going to go up there and stop you from mining asteroids. However, you will find yourself sitting on a lot of product that you can't move once you get it back. The basic fundamental premise here is legally, it belongs to everyone. You can't really sell it.
Yeah, but isn't like possession like 9/10 something?
Yeah.
Right. I got the stuff. You can't get the stuff. I sell you the stuff. Now you got the stuff. Like, isn't that how that goes?
Well, that was very technical of you.
No, but I'm serious.
I got the stuff. You don't got stuff.
You want the stuff. I got it. Now we barter.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah. I agree. I don't think they're going to run into much of it.
That's what the law really is right now, and that's fine. But I'm telling you, somebody comes down with space diamonds, somebody else is going to go, I will pay for space diamonds, and there will be an exchange of money.
Vax brings up a very good point. He says, or the government says, you got the stuff, we take your stuff. We take your stuff.
Fine, but then the government's going to sell it. Somebody's going to sell it.
Maybe, right? I mean, go get moon rock right now. Good luck getting that. The government has it. They won't sell it.
Just saying.
In fact, I think it's actually, someone correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's actually illegal to own moon rock in the U.S.
You are learning Klingon in your off time, aren't you?
Yeah, moon rock!
All right, sorry.
All right, this one was on the Spacevidcast comments section.
Yes.
Bring on the 12 minutes of hell for the Mars Science Laboratory, because my friends who are not at all space nuts love the idea that we're landing a Mini on Mars.
Mini being Mini Cooper, as
Mini
in the
Cooper.
car.
This is the largest rover we have ever landed on the red planet. It's freakishly huge. It is...
For being a rover.
For being a rover,
it's kind of a tiny car.
Yeah, absolutely. It is... yeah. It's going to be interesting. The sky crane, we've talked about it a lot. The sky crane system is quite interesting. So that's our show for this week. Thank you so much for joining us. Remember, leave your comments on the Spacevidcast site on YouTube. Leave those video comments. We want to bring those into the show. We want to hear from you guys, right? How crazy am I? Am I just not, am I uninspired? Am I being too cynical? Can we do this? You know, the chat room is saying that amateur rocketry can do it. I'm saying shenanigans. I'm not saying forever,
right?
By the way, I'm just saying not now. Not within the next decade or two.
Oh,
right?
All right.
That's a long time, though, right?
That's
That's 10 to 20 years.
Yeah, think about where we were 10 to 20 years ago.
But think of where, sure,
right?
As a society, think of where we were 10 to 20 years ago. But then also think about where we were 10 to 20 years ago when it comes to space. not much has changed in 10 to 20 years, right?
Please prove him wrong. Just prove him wrong just so you can say I proved him wrong. I mean, really.
Oh, yeah, you get kudos for being able to prove me wrong.
Please.
So anyhow, leave your comments, leave your video comments, you leave your text comments, whatever you got. We love hearing from you guys. It's a lot of fun. And I'd like to thank everyone very much for watching. Oh,
cats in space. That's what we need. We need cats in space. Cats.
Is that like laser cats? What is that?
Sure, laser cats. That's fine.
I don't even know what's going on. All right.
Cats in space.
All right. We're heading out. See you guys next week.
Orange juice, I gotta have a little orange juice, I gotta have my orange juice, I gotta have my orange juice, 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 gotta have a little bit orange juice, I gotta have my orange juice, just a little bit orange juice, gotta go, orange juice, I gotta have a little bit of that orange juice, oh, orange juice, I gotta have my baby orange juice, orange juice. Juice, give me orange juice, I gotta have orange juice, I gotta have orange juice, I gotta have orange juice, I gotta have.